Hey, real quick, if you want to hear us discuss this same topic in a shorter video, there's a link in the description below. If you're here for the long-form conversation, we're going to get into that right now. What's up, breathing people? Welcome back. Today, I'm joined by my wife, Brittany, and we're talking about how to ask a girl on a date. That is the number one question when it comes to dating, I think, on the internet. Everybody is talking about
guys.
Yeah, for guys. It definitely is more of a guy thing than it is a girl thing. Which makes perfect sense because the girl's entire persona is I'm going to look in such a way, I'm going to act in such a way, I'm going to speak in such a way, I'm going to do all of these things to have a guy ask me out on a date. And so a guy's entire how am I going to look, how am I going to speak, how am I going to act is to ask that girl on a date.
Yeah.
So we're all doing so many different things to answer this specific question. So we're going to talk a little more philosophical sometimes and then also practical on how to ask that girl on a date.
Yeah.
So
I love this. I'm excited.
So I think the first question that I wrote down when you brought this topic up that we should talk about this was, are you a person worth dating? Because I think before you can get into any practical application to get to dating a person, you need to be able to say, am I a person that that person should date?
Yeah.
That's the most logical first step, kind of in anything you do in life, and it's no different here. Am I a person that is on a trajectory in my own life that makes me on the same trajectory of someone that also wants to date?
Right.
Like you need to your life needs to be going in that direction to be someone that's worth dating.
Yeah.
If you're a bump on a log, not going anywhere in your life, I just don't even understand what makes you think that you're someone worth dating.
Right.
You're a worthless person. No,
you're not a worthless person.
No, but let me, because there's two parts to this. And we were discussing this earlier. There's what makes me worth a person to date in terms of like real practical things. Like, am I financially successful? And success is, am I stable? Do I have capabilities of obtaining money?
Success just being that you're aware of it and you're getting better at it.
Yeah.
That's success, especially when you're young. Like,
exactly.
We're all trying to get better.
Exactly. Am I trying?
Am I trying to get better?
Right.
Do I care
and
to
so
get better?
That same path in terms of finance, in terms of emotional health, in terms of relational health. How am I with friends? How am I with other relationships? There's so many areas that you can look at that relate to a dating relationship that are going to basically answer that question, am I a person worth dating?
Right.
Now, that's slightly different than, am I a person of worth?
Right.
And that's what we were talking about earlier before this. Like, there are just some things that make you a person that is worth much.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you're dating.
Right.
Regardless of if you're dating.
Right.
Now, that can inform a lot of those things that I just talked about in terms of success in different areas of your life. Without those things, you are a person of worth.
Right.
Because God called you worthy.
Yes.
He created all humans. He loves you so dearly. Therefore, you have worth.
Right. If somebody knows their worth, usually they are getting better at all those tangible things that you just listed.
Yeah. So I think there's two factors there. There's the actual things that you can look at in your own life that are tangible. And you could say, I'm improving in these areas. Therefore, I'm a person worth dating.
Right.
If you're not improving in those areas, go to the other side of this and say, what do I actually think of my own self-worth?
Do I believe that I am worth
anything.
taking the time to work on myself and get better
Right.
at these things for somebody else.
Right.
And to tie that all in, tell me if I'm getting ahead of you.
No.
When if you're a guy and you're going to ask a girl out on a date.
Yeah.
If you doubt yourself and you don't think you're worth anything, or you don't even think that like you give much to the relationship for this person that you want to ask out, why would she say yes? And if she does say yes, why would she continue going out with you?
Right.
Like girls can see that.
Right.
We can see that. We don't like that.
Mhm.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like you're saying, because you're kind of speaking towards confidence, and confidence is felt. You know, it is something that you can practice, and there can be physical attributes of confidence, but a lot of it is felt by the person that you're navigating relationally with.
And I don't think it's just confidence.
No? What were you kind of speaking to then? Just like the feeling of self-worth?
I mean, I guess it's confidence. It's
think
just
that's
a
what
security.
Right.
It's being if you're secure in yourself, you know your worth, and you don't feel threatened or intimidated by where you're at in life. Like maybe you are struggling financially.
Yeah.
But you know that you have a plan in place. Like you have a plan in place to get stable. You're not there yet. Well, whatever it is, that's like an easy example to use. But if you're rooted, what was the word I just used? If you're
like, you're talking about
if you're secure, that's the word.
Yeah.
If you're secure in where you're at, who you are, and that you're working towards getting better and you know where you want to be, yeah, you're probably going to be a confident person. But you're also just secure. You don't have to like put on some sort of persona that you're a confident person.
Right.
You just know who you are. You're not intimidated by anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that kind of person, when they go to ask somebody out on a date, I don't know, they bring something. They bring something to the table.
I think that's where confidence does manifest, though, is like the security allows for confidence to actually
true confidence.
Right. True confidence to actually come forth. I think without it, it's going to be untrue.
That's true.
You know, you're not going to have security breeds that confidence for sure. For sure. So yeah, you have to have both of those things. You have to be able to like point to areas of your life in which you're a person worth dating. And then you need to look, you know, how do I perceive myself? Because that will carry into your dating relationship. That's why I'm harping on this and want to start here, is not just like you need to have all your ducks in a row before you can date someone. No,
you're not going to.
No, I mean, because for my life, when I started dating you, I was working at a gas station. I was working at a convenience store. Not a career like not a career path that was ever going to amount to anything of huge success.
Right.
Nor was it in an area, like it was out of line with things that I told you that I wanted to do in my life. So I'm not even in alignment there.
Right.
But like you said, I had a plan. I had direction of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and where I was going. And I think being confident in that it allows you to check off that part of your life.
So how do you think the two things you're talking about, knowing that you're a person of worth and also knowing that you're worth dating, those two things you talked about, how did that help you ask people on a date?
Yeah. I think this is more retrospective. If I'm being honest, these are the questions that I would have been more successful in my dating relationships if I asked this question first.
Yeah.
Because track record, like I had other girlfriends before I married you, and they were unsuccessful.
Yeah.
And now that could just be the people I dated, or
And the time.
or in the time, or
Mhm.
it could be I didn't ask these questions beforehand
To yourself.
to myself.
Did you ask
Maybe
those
I didn't
questions to
have.
yourself when you dated me?
I think I had come to a lot of resolution on those questions, especially on the part of self-worth.
Yeah.
So I think, again, if you have that self-worth, you're able to then navigate into
Yeah.
checking the boxes in other areas of your
It
life.
feeds the other
Right. You
areas.
need that self-worth to be strong. You need
Yeah.
that self-worth to be your foundation to build these other areas upon. Because if you're financially successful, you're physically healthy, emotionally healthy, great relationships, but you hate yourself, all of these things eventually are going to
Yeah.
crumble.
Yes.
Eventually are going to get confused and they're going to get disoriented and they're going to not be what you ultimately desire.
Because they're
And maybe
standalone. They're not
and
being fed by
maybe
anything.
you might be
Yeah.
financially successful, but maybe not in a field that is actually true to who you are because you don't actually know who you are and you're not secure
That's
and
true.
you don't have a lot of self-worth.
Yeah.
So maybe you just did whatever your parents told you to do or you did whatever your mentor told you to do.
And that's going to eventually hurt whoever it is that you want to ask out.
Right. Well,
And be
eventually
in a relationship with.
yeah, eventually in your relationships, you're not going to be happy financially. So maybe you're going to bring that into your relationships and you're not going to be happy there.
Yeah.
Because you're ultimately not doing what you wanted to do, but you're not honest with yourself. So you don't even understand why you're so frustrated about this successful thing in your life. It's because
That's
you
true.
didn't actually want it, but you weren't true to yourself.
Mhm.
So you have
It's
all
like a
of the
cyclical pattern here.
yeah. So you have all of these factors in play. So I was very secure in my self-worth
Mhm.
at the time that I met you. I was not there in past relationships. So, just an
Mhm.
answer to your question, I wish I asked this question in those past relationships. Even if they didn't work out,
Yeah.
at least I know it wasn't me and it wasn't, and I don't even mean like, because I broke up with some of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, but at least I know that it was other factors besides how I felt about myself in that
Right.
relationship.
Right.
Because you have so many questions if you're not honest with yourself
That's true.
beforehand.
That's true.
And I wasn't. I
Mhm.
wasn't having these types of conversations with myself. I wasn't thinking through some of the questions
Right.
of am I a person even worth dating right
Yeah.
now? So yeah, that's something that I wish I did more of. I had a foundation though when I started dating you.
Yeah.
And I think that foundation, if people are listening to this, that's enough to get started.
Yeah.
Like we were trying to say, that will lead to you being able to check off other
Right.
areas of your life.
Yeah. And to add to that, like from my perspective, using you as the example, um, when you asked me out, I could see that you were confident in who you were, um, as well as many other things, because a girl doesn't just say yes because you're confident, right?
Yeah.
So I could tell that you were somebody who you were an honest person, you're a person of integrity, and you had self-worth. And so, yeah, that initial going out,
Mhm.
it worked out for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also had something where, and we've talked about this in the past, where God had tapped me on the shoulder and said that I needed to date you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was confident also in the kind of divine intervention that
Right. That
occurred
helps.
that led me to date you. It's pretty cool when God's like that.
Yes.
Because I was, we've talked about this too. I was against dating anyone at that time. I
Mhm.
was coming out of relationships where I hadn't asked these questions.
Right.
And so I just wanted to stay away from that for a while and focus on finding my self worth
Yes.
in God.
Yes.
Knowing who I am as a child of God,
Right.
and being in relationship with Him.
Right.
I wanted to foster that relationship. So He was able to kind of lead me to eventually ask you out. And yeah, I don't think without that, I really would have pursued you in the
Mhm.
same way and with the same tenacity
Yes.
and confidence that you saw. I wasn't out there trying to be anything for you or be confident for you.
Right.
I was just kind of walking in integrity, in the truth that I kind of knew already, even before I started pursuing you in a dating relationship.
And so but that's so key. I mean, a lot of guys are probably not going to have that experience where God taps them on the shoulder, maybe.
Yeah.
But that in itself, you are walking in integrity.
Mhm.
You knew your self-worth.
Yeah.
You were confident, and you were, not really persistent. I guess you were persistent.
I was pretty persistent.
I made it a little hard. Okay. But you were, you were those things, and that matters to women.
Yeah.
It matters that you're honest about who you are, that you care about who you are, and you care about others. Like I don't want to get off track because there's so many things you could get off track on, but that you know what you want. So when you ask a girl out, it's important to do that back work to know, am I worth dating? Do I believe in myself? Do I need to do work on myself before I ask this person? And also, why do I want to ask her out?
Yeah.
That matters too, because girls can read that.
Yeah.
Like if a guy's asking me out, this was not the case with us, but like if a guy were to ask me out and he just wants physical stuff, that's going to end as soon as I find that out.
Right.
So you can the girl can read what is it that you truly want. So if you like that girl, you like who she is, and you want to see maybe if she's could potentially be a future spouse, and you are persistent in pursuing her, oh man, that matters.
Persistence. Well, let's go back though, because you could want her as your future spouse. You could be persistent in pursuing her. But like you just said, if you're not answering the question, why do I want to date her?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, because we kind of went to just be persistent in pursuing her and it'll work out. And maybe I want her as my future spouse one day. Great.
Right. But knowing
why are you actually desiring to date her?
And I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's what we read into. Like if that person,
and that's why we'd have to focus on that question.
Yeah. That's important. Yeah. Knowing why it is that you want to date her. And if it is a integrous reason, if it's an ethical reason that you want to date her, I feel like there's better words to explain this. If it's a good reason.
No, it needs to be mutual.
It needs to be, it needs to be mutual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because see, this is the thing, like, and Christians kind of get wrapped up into, just avoid the physical until marriage. Yeah. Cool. Why? It's because you want the relationship to be mutual. You want the relationship to be something that's beneficial to both parties, or why are we doing it?
Right.
And if you're just pursuing the physical, most likely, and because we know—
that says you don't care about me.
Right.
Anybody can give you something physical.
Sure.
That's why I'm saying, like,
and if that's the answer to your question, you're not someone worth dating, because you didn't actually take that other person in mind.
I want the person who asks me out to care about who I am. And who I will be.
The same way that you cared for yourself, hopefully, if you answered that first question, am I a person worth dating or of worth to begin with? Yes, I'm a person of worth. I'm a person worth dating. And I want somebody that knows their worth and that it's a person also worth dating.
Yeah.
It's the same question you have to answer in that person that you want to date. And then that second question, why actually do I want to date?
Yeah. That's an important one that's also very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it physical? Because if that's it, honestly, it's just kind of lame.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just put it in that way. Yeah, it's selfish. I mean, like, I guess both parties can get enjoyment from that, but honestly, it's just lame.
Yeah.
It's so lame. And I know that's like the big thing. Like,
maybe if it's mutual for those two people.
Nah, but you know what? But it's not. It's not mutual, because it's a relationship built on the wrong thing.
That's true. And what you're going for when you want physical is really deeper than that.
Yes.
It's deeper than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a betrayal to yourself.
It is. Yeah.
If you actually desired something more than physical in that relationship. Like, if you desired something more relationally with that person, sex is not going to get you there.
No.
It will get you fulfillment in a moment. And then now your entire relationship is built on doing physical.
Yeah, that's sad.
And nothing else. So you're not going to ever develop an emotional connection. You're not going to develop a relational connection outside of the physical because that's what you started with.
It's based on that.
Right. You just, so I just find it lame. I really do. And like everything I see on the internet now is like, what's your riz like? Like, how much are you able to like kind of get a girl and manipulate her to the point where you're able to coerce her to go out with you, get her number for
That's not cool.
Well, I don't mind. It's that it goes back to that confidence thing. Like part of riz is confidence with people. But again, why?
Yeah. Is this like a game? I don't want to be a part of a game.
No, it's not a game. See, that's the thing. It doesn't have to be a game.
Okay.
You know, you could just be, they used to call it a romantic.
Okay.
You know, this is just the new lingo.
So it's important to know that why.
Yeah.
Because I'd be curious to know what those people's whys are.
Right. Probably not as moral.
Yeah.
Or as ethical or as mutual as we're talking about.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is something that you already said, and I love that this is the truth. Girls know in their guts why you're doing what you're doing. You know, when you're pursuing that person, they're answering that question of why you're doing this.
And the other scary thing, if you're not answering those first two questions that you talked about when the guy's asking themselves questions, if the guy doesn't do that and the girl continues to say yes, right? They don't know like why they want to date this girl. They don't know about themselves. And the girl continues to date you. She probably, like you said before, doesn't have high self-worth herself.
Yeah.
Because she's going to know that she's getting like a lower level guy. I know that sounds awful. Not everyone could be amazing, right?
Yeah.
But they might not have much self-worth themselves. And so they're like, this is all I can get. That's a sad relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Where she really doesn't think that much of you.
Yeah. Because she doesn't think that much of herself.
And you get whatever you want from her, which is also sad.
Yeah.
There should be pushback sometimes.
Yeah.
There should be compromise sometimes. There should be like, I have these values that are a part of who I am. And the point of being in a relationship is to learn more about who that person is so that you can come together relationally.
Yeah.
They're going to learn about you. You're going to learn about them. That's where there's actual connection. It's not when a person just gives you whatever you want and you're just kind of back and forth pleasing
That's not
each
a
other.
relationship.
That's not a relationship because you've learned nothing about that person and you've not actually made lasting connections with them.
Yeah. That's not a fulfilling relationship.
No.
Yeah.
Not a fulfilling relationship. I do want to say though, it is difficult for people right now. I think it's good and necessary to point that out.
Yeah. So people don't feel hopeless.
Yeah. I mean, because a lot of the stuff that we're talking about and the questions that we're posing to answer for yourself, that's going to help you in every area of your life if you just kind of take out dating and just put whatever else in. You know, am I a person worth this? Am I a person worth this? Am I a person of worth?
Yeah.
You know, answering those questions. Why do I want this for my life? Why do I desire this? Asking the why question is something that we learned as children. Why, mommy? Why, daddy?
Right. And then we forget it as adults.
But then as adults, we're stupid and we don't say, why do I actually want this?
Yeah.
Like how do I feel about this? Why do I have this desire? Because that's going to inform so many decisions that you make either to not pursue or to pursue that thing.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason we're proposing these questions is because it's so invaluable to do this work personally with yourself. But it's tough. I totally get it.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, we are a strange case.
Yeah.
Where God kind of brought us together, and in our last video, we talked about how to find a Christian spouse. And we
Yeah.
talked about our story, but we also gave practical steps that we took
To find each
to
other.
prepare us
Yeah.
for God to be able to bring us together, for his perfect will for our relationship to come together to be done.
Yes.
So that takes work also. So there are things you can go back and you can watch that. There are things that you can do to prepare for that.
Right.
But if we're just to look at the landscape, if we're just to look at kind of the dating game as it stands today, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sad at the state that a lot of guys are in with their self-worth, the feelings of their self-worth, because social media, a lot of the kind of content that can be consumed on YouTube and other platforms just paint this picture that there are kind of these super confident people
Yeah.
that are super successful in obtaining all these women.
Yeah. That's true.
And then you go and you try your hand at this, and either people are getting married left and right, and you're seeing that on social media. All your friends from high school are getting married, and that's depressing.
Yeah.
That's depressing. Especially if you're coming at this a little later in life, like you don't have a high school sweetheart. You didn't find someone in college.
Yeah.
You didn't, whatever.
That's hard.
There's no one at your job. Everybody's older or younger or whatever.
Right.
It's tough. You're like, where do I go? How do I even start this? I think I'm too late. I don't have what those people on the internet possess in terms of confidence, in terms of personality, or whatever it is. So you just look at all of these examples to tell you, I can't.
Right.
I'm very, 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 I acknowledge that. And I'm very sad that a person gets to that place.
Yeah.
That being said, everything that I just talked about is something that you can either look at as a reason why you can't, or it can be the very motivation to get you to get out there and be used as fuel of the necessity for you to date.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything I love. I'm reading this book called the High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. And she talks about jealousy in one of her chapters. And she talks about the fact that jealousy can be something that kills your motivation, because a lot of times, like with social media, we follow a lot of people that are doing things that we would want to be doing with our own lives. And we can get jealous of what they're doing and say, well, they obtained what I want, so now I can't have it.
Right.
Which a lot of us do. We might not think that, but if you're actually honest with yourself, I've totally done that, where you're like, that person has what I want, which means now it's not attainable to me because they already got it.
Yeah.
Or
it's like they got it and I didn't, so I'll never get it.
I'll never get it.
Yeah.
Or jealousy can be your biggest motivator, where you can say, look, that person got what I want.
It's attainable.
It's attainable.
Yeah.
And then you can just be if you have that mindset, you can be following those same people. You can be following those Riz doctors on the social media apps that are just getting every girl. And it just seems like they have success with everybody, which it's staged. And a lot of it is just like street magic. You know what I mean? It's not what it seems, is what I'm saying. And you can look at all of those and say, I could have that same thing. If someone else got it, that means it's attainable for me.
Right.
So jealousy can be something that is your biggest killer or your biggest motivator.
Yeah. If you switch, do that little flip.
If you do that flip, and it's something that starts with small wins in your life. And and maybe we can get a little more practical here, but there needs to be like you placing yourself in positions where there are opportunities for you to practice towards the goal of the result that you desire.
Right.
Going out on a date with a girl, asking a girl out on a date.
And like, I think some practical things, tell me if you have more to add on that, but some practical things about asking somebody out on a date. Like that question, how do I ask a girl on a date?
Right.
I feel like everything we just talked about is really helpful for leading up to that point. But
that's where I think we have to get to though, because you start with how do I ask a girl on a date and you don't do any prep work.
Right.
You're going to never ask a girl on a date.
Yes. No, that's true.
You have to do this work beforehand, especially even in the practical.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Like
it is. What you're saying is practical.
Yeah. There has to be a pattern shift in your mindset, especially if you notice that you are a jealous person of people that are obtaining dates.
Right.
You have to see that you have a negative pattern established in your life that's going to carry into your dating game.
Right.
And then you're just going to, a negative pattern in your life only deepens.
Yes.
It has to. That's how your brain works.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called the RAS. Don't ask me what it stands for. I forget. But it's basically a system in your brain such as I'm going to buy a red Acura. So now as I drive to the Acura dealership, I see red Acuras everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a system that developed in our brain to be able to hear our name in a crowd of people.
Yes.
It's a system that alerts you to danger. It's a system that,
mothers
really
use it all the time for their children.
Exactly. It's a great system and it is malleable. So if you have a negative mindset when it comes to asking a girl on a date, like the fear of that and your lack of ability in that area, you need to do small things to start to shift that pattern to positive wins.
Yeah.
You need to put yourself in positions to where maybe you just need to learn how to talk to girls more.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going to put yourself in position to do that?
Right.
So that you can have small wins. We're not talking about asking a girl out yet.
Yeah.
We're talking about putting myself in position to start having conversations with girls so that I'm comfortable in those settings.
Yeah. No, that's smart.
It's so practical and it will help you in more areas than just dating.
Yeah.
But that's also a way to rewire your brain so that you're comfortable when you go to ask that question.
Yes.
I don't have to worry about my inability to talk to girls in general.
Right.
I'm good on that front. Now I just have to pose a question to this girl.
Yes.
It's going to be much easier once you have that win under your belt.
Right.
And once you have that pattern, like I'm good at this. Because now
now you're not like walking up to this girl like totally afraid in your brain, like I don't know what to say, and then it's super awkward and weird.
But and like I said with that RAS system, like if you have not changed the negative pattern established in your brain, that is the only thing that's going to be going through your brain when you go to pose that question.
Right.
So you will fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so necessary for guys, especially to hear. You have to change this or you will be unsuccessful.
Right.
And then you're going to go right into that spiral of I'm not worth dating.
Yeah.
I don't have worth as a person.
Right. Nobody says yes to me when I ask them out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's something I hear from a lot of guys, but they don't understand that there are things that you can do before you make that.
Right.
Before you pursue that girl, before you make that question, pose that question, there are things that you can do to be more successful when you do it. And that's just one thing. Be in situations where you can talk to women. What are some other things do you think that?
No, I was going to say I love that because I never thought of that. I was thinking very practical in similar to the same vein that you were talking about, but more like if you already had a girl that you wanted to ask out. I was thinking like try to talk to her and get to know her first before maybe just asking her out. Yeah. But that goes along with what you're saying. And I would have never thought of it that way. Just putting yourself in scenarios where you get used to talking to women.
Right.
And it's not like a weird, scary thing. That way, when you want to get to know somebody in particular,
Right.
you can start to get to know them and it's not awkward and it's not weird. And then when you're ready, you can get to that point to actually ask them out on a date.
And it should be as simple as that. It should be as simple as like having those conversations. It should not go too much further than that, because then you get into the weird friend zone.
Yes.
Where you're like, I thought we were just friends, but now you're kind of pursuing this a little more. You went too far in that relationship. You should have
the one you were practicing in? What do you mean?
Yeah. So like if you're putting yourself in situations to have conversations with girls so that you can get more comfortable in that for the purpose of at some point, maybe in that group of girls or maybe in another group, asking that girl, asking a girl out. Don't pursue the relationship any more than conversation.
Right. You don't want to lead them on.
Right. You
if
don't
you're
want
not
to,
actually
hey, let's
them.
like hang out and just be friends. Like, don't do that.
Don't use people.
Don't do that.
We're not advocating for using people.
No, and I'm not even saying that. I'm not even saying that people do that intentionally, where maybe they really do just like this person and they think they're fun and they just want to hang out with them. You know, that is something that's different in this day and age than what was in the 50s or whatever. You know, like people weren't best friends.
We talked about how to know if you're in a relationship, and that's probably one of those scenarios where there's a girl-guy relationship and one of them is wondering, is this more than just a relationship? And I think it goes, not to get us off track, but I think it just goes back to being upfront with your intentions.
Yes. Okay.
So
yeah, we did talk about that. And
so that's a different thing, but that will help in.
It'll help in this because you want to make sure that you are. Yeah. You're not getting into muddy, murky waters before you pop that question, because it's going to influence the result of that question.
Right.
You know, the answer to that question. That we were friends beforehand, but now this is looking like something more. You don't want that.
Well, is that bad? Is that bad for a guy? Because that's not really bad for a girl. I was going to say that getting to, let's just say you're interested in somebody.
Yeah.
So you just want to get to know them more as a guy. Like I'm talking from the guy. The guy's like, I'm interested in this girl. I just want to get to know her more. Maybe he's done all this back work, right? And he doesn't think talking with girls is awkward. Like I don't think there's anything wrong. I think that's helpful. Like get to know her first. And then if you still like want to date her, then ask. I don't think that's weird. Do you think that's weird?
I think that the dating game
or do you think
has changed so much that I don't know if you can enter a relationship with a person in that way without establishing what we're there for. Like I don't
explain.
So we used to, like back when my parents dated, you could date like 4 different people and no one would think the wiser.
Oh, that was, yes.
You know,
that was different.
Dating was, I'm just trying to like feel out all of these different people.
You would go on a date.
Right. And you're getting to know somebody.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of it. The dating game has become much more relational. Like, are we in a relationship right now?
Right.
Like as soon as we go out on a date, are we dating? Are we in a relationship? So just the way that people, would I love to bring back the old way of dating? Yes.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's the mindset of people that are in those, you know, that go on dates. So I think it's just necessary to be very open.
Yeah. With your intentions.
From the first date and being like, you know, and I think that's a question. Let me see if I wrote that down.
So you're saying, okay, let's just back up a little bit.
Yeah.
You're saying if a guy is kind of eyeing up a girl, he knows her like as an acquaintance.
Yeah.
But he's like, I would like to date her or go on a date with her.
Yeah.
You're saying that maybe it is better to just kind of be upfront with like, do you want to go on a date with me?
Right. Because
instead
instead
of like trying to get to know them and then I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because then once you go on a date with them after you're friends, then you're like, oh, do we have to like be in a relationship now?
Now you have to have a much different conversation than you're like, you're upfront,
Because if you
just
don't want to
saying,
date her
like,
after that first date, that would be kind of weird.
now you have this deeper connection and
Yeah.
relationship with this
Okay.
person, friendship with this person that is not necessary if you always intended to date her.
Yes, that's true.
Don't do that.
Just go for it.
It'll hurt more.
Yeah.
It'll suck for maybe the friend group that you're in.
Yes.
There's so many things that could be avoided if you just start with, hey, I'm kind of into you, the way you look, your personality.
Yeah.
I'd like to go on a date with you.
Yeah.
And
That would-
you
yeah.
can set it up where it's kind of like how your parents dated,
Yeah.
you know, where you're like, hey, I'm looking right now for somebody that I can marry one day.
Yeah.
And you're very upfront with that. You're very open about that. It's funny because that question, I've seen people talk about it and it scares them when
Mhm.
someone's just like, I'm kind of looking for someone to marry. I'm kind of looking for someone.
They feel like you're almost committing like right then, right,
Right.
there, but that's not.
I think
Yeah.
it shows the difference in dating relationships nowadays. And that's why I'm more sensitive to don't become such good friends
That's a good
and
point.
then change to a dating relationship. Just date. And that way you keep yourself as distant as possible.
Because you can always become friends after that.
Right.
I feel like it's easier after if it doesn't work out.
Don't you think a conversation with somebody that you're not super close with, that you're not really good friends with, would be easier to have that conversation like, yeah, this is just kind of where I'm at in life. I'm sort of in that season where I'm looking for someone to marry. You're not even talking about them.
Yeah.
You're still getting to know them. Like, we're just talking openly about hopes and dreams for
Yeah.
the future.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about marrying someone. One day I'd love to have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there would be less pressure than if you were friends with that person. You're
That
like,
would be like,
hey, Bob, like, why have you never talked to me about this
Yeah.
before? Like, you've always just wanted to hang.
that's true.
That was
would be
was
weird
what
now.
you just wanted to do. We were
Mhm,
friends. We were just kind of hanging out. We were having a good time. You just like partying, I
Right.
thought. You know, now we're talking
Now
about
you want to have
kids.
babies with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
That's true.
I don't think it's bad to be friends with a girl.
Mhm.
I just think that if you intended to date her, you should do that as
First.
quickly as possible so that you avoid a lot of the problems
That's
that could
true.
come from being too deep in the relationship.
Yeah.
That's all
I'm glad
saying.
I'm glad you mentioned that because now that you say it that way, that would be better if that was your intent from the beginning.
Yeah.
Just go for it. If it doesn't work out, you
Doesn't
still
work
might
out?
be able to be friends.
But yeah, exactly. If it doesn't work out, you're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for
Yeah.
people. I think you're a beautiful girl,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Moving on.
Yep.
You know, and maybe you could be friends with that person. Like, because
It would be less awkward, I think, to be friends with somebody after that. Like, oh, we're just not meant to like be
Yeah.
in that kind of relationship.
But I think guys also fall into the trap because I've had these thoughts where, like, if I was to ask this girl on a date, like, it could get real serious real fast.
Is that a concern of guys?
Yeah, like, well, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. I just think, like, we put a lot of weight onto, like, people aren't asking how to ask a girl on a date. They're not asking that question because there's no weight behind it.
Yeah.
There's a ton of weight behind something we might feel as simple as asking a girl out on a date.
Right.
Like, we're kind of simplifying, but guys have a huge amount of pressure behind
That's true.
that ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying maybe doing it as quickly as possible will also help mitigate against some of the pressures that you feel in making that ask.
Right.
You know, you don't have a deep relationship with that person. So it has to be for the purpose of getting to know them
Right.
by default.
Right.
Unless, because I feel like there'd be more pressure to be serious and then maybe get yourself into something that you're not too happy with
Right.
once you're in it,
Yeah.
if it goes from friendship to dating.
Yeah. So if you just go and you're not friends with the person first, like you just kind of know them and you ask them out on a date, I'm curious on your perspective. When we dated, it seemed to work out well in that you kind of just asked me out on a date. So
Yeah.
I knew that we were dating
Yeah, kind of.
on the second date.
But no, it's okay to
yeah.
talk about because I wasn't clear in my intentions.
Right. I had hung out with other guys as well. So I thought it was just hanging out.
Right.
So but I did know the intentions on the second date.
Yes.
But yeah, what I'm saying is I don't think you would want to, I think you need to be upfront with your intentions. But like, you don't have to like scare somebody either with like, listing everything. Like, just be like, I want to go, like you had said, I think that you're attractive. I think you're a great person. I'd love to, do you want to go on a date with me?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there has to be a little bit of a scare tactic to scare away people that you shouldn't be in relationship with.
And you should do
A
that
deeper
before
relationship
they
with.
even say yes, you're saying.
Yeah,
like with the
get it out
ask.
on the first date. Like
not
person,
on the date, like before you ask them on the date. Is that what you're saying?
No, on the date.
On the date, okay.
On the date. If that person has made that commitment to go out on that date with you,
then you can ask. That's what I'm saying.
I just don't agree though that it's too much to kind of list some of those things.
On the first date.
On the first date.
I thought you meant like before you asked them out.
No.
I'm like, that might be a little scary.
If you know your self-worth and you know that you're a person worth dating, that will give you confidence in order to list your intentions for the dating relationship.
On that first date.
And you're not even...
I agree with that.
And I think if you do it in such a way where... I think there's a way to do it and to approach that conversation with that person on that first date that doesn't put pressure on them.
Yeah.
If it puts pressure on them, that's on their own accord.
Yes.
Like they got pressure from hearing the word marriage.
Right.
They got pressure from hearing, I have to hold babies in my belly.
Right.
Like, you know.
But at the same time, like we've talked about before, as long as you're not doing it in a way that would put pressure on them, right? Then, like you said, it will scare away the right people.
Right.
Because if somebody's
that's what I said. I said there's a way to approach that where you're not putting pressure unless it is applied to them themselves.
The right person will be able to be like, oh, I like that. I'm into that because I'm also looking for somebody to marry.
Yeah.
Whatever all you listed, I also want to have children at some point when I'm married. Then you're sticking with somebody who is on the same page as you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two of the dating stories that I look at the most, that I'm kind of in awe of, and I would love to have just been at like the table next to them, is Ben Shapiro.
Oh my goodness. I don't know his story.
So he talks very openly about how he met his wife. Now his wife's very private. Their kids are very private, you know, which for obvious reasons he gets a lot of hate.
Yeah.
But he does talk about how he and his wife met. He talks about the intentions that he was very clear with very early on.
That's cool.
You know, and they got married very quickly.
Yeah.
Because he's an Orthodox Jew. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have sex before marriage.
Right.
And he was at the point where he was successful financially. He was successful in a lot of areas of his life. And he wanted to have sex.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's like, once he got to know this person, you know, and kind of used dating as a way to get to know that person, he's like, cool, now let's get married.
Yeah.
Because,
quickly.
because I don't want to, like, I don't have to make any other decisions. I can support you financially, you know.
I'm prepared.
And he was very, very open with like, I want to get married.
Yeah.
And I want to have kids. And, you know, that's the trajectory of my life. I value those things because of my religion. I value those things because of my desires personally.
Right.
If those match with you, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. It's very cool. And his wife was strong enough. It's interesting. His wife was strong enough eventually to marry him. Mm-hmm. But before that, I loved how she wasn't ready though right away. And she was aware enough to know that as soon as she said, I love you to him,
that was it.
That he was like, cool, let's get married.
Yeah. She was smart.
You know,
she's a smart girl.
Because he was open about,
yeah.
And he was very early on in their relationship saying, I love you. Every phone call that they had till 3 a.m, you know, I love you. And she would be like, okay.
I love that though too. Just in that, there's integrity in the I love you thing. That means something.
Yes.
And it should mean something. And in your dating relationship, you should not say that.
No.
You should not say that.
We throw that word out so flippantly. We're just, I love you.
Yeah.
I love you. And then it's
you can
meaningless.
say I like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But don't say I love you until you're like ready to like, I'll die for you to like
right.
protect you for your good.
Yeah.
Right. So that word, it
bears
powerful.
weight. It bears weight. Use it wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that story. So eventually, I forget how many months after they had been dating, not many, she said, I love you. And he's like, cool, let's get married. And they did.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that story. I think another one, Patrick Bet-David talks about how he met his wife, and he had a very unchristian life in the army and a little after that, where he was just, you know, all about the clubs and sleeping with every woman he could manage to sleep with.
Yeah.
And when he actually decided to get serious about marriage, he's the type of guy, kind of like me, where he just wants to research the best ways to do this.
Yeah.
And so he read a book, and it kind of had, I think, like some sort of a test that both parties could take and see if they were compatible and, you know, see if they jibed. And
that will scare away girls.
He presented that on a date to the girl.
Yeah.
You know,
well, you need to know what kind of guy you're getting into if he wants you to take a test. So if that doesn't scare her away, then she might be somebody
this
worth
was like
dating.
the first date. I think this was the first date. Like, they're just getting to know each, and he's like, hey, I need you to take this test. And it did scare people away. It totally scared people away. But then eventually
he found the
right one. And she's like, cool, game.
So it goes back to being like, if the person that you are looking for, if they're scared from whatever it is you bring on that first date, they're not the person you want anyway.
Right. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, that's
I think that actually is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're so scared of losing the people that we go on dates with that we actually don't get everything we desire.
Yeah.
We think by keeping the peace,
by changing who we are, we get them, and that's not helping.
No.
That's not helping you or them.
Because you'll never get a person that actually supports who you are.
Yeah. You have to fake all your life.
Right.
Or have an unhappy marriage.
Yeah. Well, faking all your life just leads to resentment.
Yeah.
Faking all your life just leads to depression, because just like with, you know, finances.
Yeah.
You know, if we're not actually doing what we want to do with our lives, we're doing what someone else's dream for our life was.
Yes.
We're going to be unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to take that unhappiness and we're going to put it on people we love. We're going to put it on other parts of our life and wonder why those areas aren't well. And then it's just this, I'm just going to take this negativity to this thing I'm not truthful about. That's why it's so important to tell the truth about everything in your life, even if it's difficult. Like, I might have to quit my job and get a new one.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Yeah.
But if you're truthful about it, maybe you'll be truthful in other areas of your life, and then you'll be able to actually fix them.
Yep.
So really important. All right. So let's do a couple more rapid fire kind of practical things. We kind of talked about what to talk about when you're first on that date.
Yeah.
But let's go back now. From your perspective, what would be the best way for a guy to approach you to ask you on a date?
Okay, so I would want to know him first. I wouldn't go on a date with I wouldn't go on a date with somebody I didn't know at all. Like, if I first met you.
Right. You would want to have been in his circle a little bit.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So, and that's just the kind of person I am. Maybe somebody else would be okay with that.
Right.
But if you come out of the blue, like you just met me at Wawa and you think that I'm good looking and you ask me on a date, I would be like, no.
Right.
No way. I have no
honestly,
idea who you
security.
are. Yeah.
That's security, because a lot of insecure people will be like, maybe Prince Charming has just come along, and it's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah. No.
You know? Romeo knew Juliet for a long time before he was ever Romeo to her.
Yes. So I would say no to that. But if it was somebody that I had an acquaintance with, like they're in my church or they're in the sport that I do.
Yeah.
And I know them a little bit. Like, I've seen them, and then they ask me with confidence, and I don't hate who they are, then I would say yes. I would go on a first date with them.
Yeah.
And I would appreciate them listing out those things. I would, because then I could know, no, like this is not somebody I want to keep dating. Or yes, like this is somebody they're in my lane.
Okay, but give me some more like take me through what to you would be confidence. Take me through like when that guy comes up to you and he is
here's
to
the thing.
Okay.
That's why I need to see them in my circle.
Because if that person is acting differently.
It's not about the time they ask.
Yeah.
It's not about how they ask. It's about who they were when they didn't ask.
Right. Are they the same person?
It's all about that.
Ah. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Authenticity. So make sure that person kind of knows who you are before you even ask the question. Yeah. Hang around in their circle. Be around that person for an extended amount of time, just enough for them to know who you are.
Yeah. That you're not some creeper off the street and something's going to happen on the date.
And then when you make that ask, don't try and be anything different than who you were, because they're going to look into that and see that inauthenticity. Yeah. And remember, guys, we're talking about finding a person that is of worth themselves. We're not talking about the easy girls. We're not talking about the girls that have daddy issues that you can pick up off the street.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
And I'm not dissing on those girls. Right. I hope they find healing and are able to grow in self-worth. I'm saying for you,
right,
for the person that you actually want, you want that person that is like Brittany.
Yeah.
You want that person that had some self-worth, that knew that she needed that guy to be authentic.
Yes.
And be authentic.
Yep.
That's good. Okay. So let's think. So what are some other things that
yeah, I mean, I think that's the main, to answer your question a little further.
Yeah.
That's the main thing that would be the best way to ask. Because everything else is just kind of creepy.
Right.
Right? Like everything else is just creepy. Like
right. Guys have to understand, and I'm speaking to myself after years of hearing scientists talk about this so that I could actually comprehend this, because we're not smart enough to comprehend this of our own mind. Girls' BS detector is like up here, and there's a lot of reasons for that. There's upbringing, and there's your need as a weaker species to be alert to every single interaction and conversation and side glance and everything going on in the environment. You have to be aware of.
We have creeper antennas.
Yeah. Yes. Some don't, but
that's true.
Some don't, but I think again it goes back to insecurities and goes back to lack of self-worth. I think those like lower your BS detector,
and sometimes that is not their fault. So that is a sad thing too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But the person that you're trying to pursue needs to see that authenticity, because if they don't, you're going to be creepy.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you would want a guy to talk about on a date besides kind of them talking and listing out all of the things that they desire? What other things would you want to talk about on that first date?
I feel like I'm the wrong person to ask for this. I just want them to be themselves and talk about what they enjoy now, what their hopes and dreams are.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's good. And that's for you.
Yeah, that's for me.
You. There's going to be, if another girl was sitting in your seat, I'm sure they would have like, well, here's what I want to know. You were not that person.
No.
You were just like, present yourself to me.
Yeah.
And I'll make my judgment call or not.
Right.
That's fine. All right. But I think we covered enough. I'm sure we're going to talk about this again and again and again, because it is it's a topic that is asked a lot right now.
Yeah.
It's asked a lot because there is a difficulty with finding girls.
Yes.
There's a difficulty. And I know I said put yourself in situations where you're in an environment with girls. I understand that that's difficult. I understand that that is not easy to find.
Right.
Even in churches nowadays, like, especially with the demographic of most churches, there's not a lot of young people. And that's a Christian issue. That's a, a church issue, an American church issue, especially. But like, I can't even recommend people go to church.
I know.
And find young people there. A lot of them are going to be married already.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yep, that's true.
So we will
rough.
have to kind of think through and make those kind of suggestions in other podcasts and other videos.
Can you list out before we kind of end just like the points?
Okay.
So I feel like we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But they're all really important.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just kind of like list it
out?
out?
So I think the first thing that you have to answer is, am I someone worth dating?
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about two things that go with that. Am I in myself, do I feel worthy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I know who I am in God? Or if you don't believe in God, do I know in, I don't know, whatever.
That humans have value.
That
and I'm
humans
one of
have
them.
values. Yeah. I guess that's the only other way to kind of define that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have self-worth? Do you believe that you're a person of worth? And then on the other side, after that, you can then look at your actual life, the tangible areas of your life, finances and relationships and emotional health and physical health and all of those things, and say, am I a person worth dating?
Yeah. And so that's all in one.
That's all in one, worth.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you have to answer the question, why do I want to date
this person?
To date this person, why do I want to date in general?
Yeah.
Because your intentions are going to say a lot about your success in actually having a meaningful relationship with a person.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like, I'm just so darn horny, like, no, but
it's true.
Honestly, that is why people get on these dating apps. That's why they get on to the internet and they're looking for women in all of these various places just because they're horny.
Yeah.
That's okay. If you answer that question, you know that you shouldn't date right now.
You got to do some work.
You have to do some work to make that question truthfully answer, because I want a meaningful relationship with another person.
Yeah.
Which will provide value to my life.
Yeah.
Because that's what relationships ultimately are there for.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be in their most successful form. And that's the only thing that you should pursue.
Yes.
So if it's a horny relationship you want, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. That's why you have to ask that question. Understand the difficulties in the dating game, and then try and pick out ways in which you can flip the script on that, the negative aspects of the dating game, and figure out ways that you can put yourself in position. You can do things now personally
to prepare yourself.
Yeah, to prepare yourself to date somebody.
Yeah.
So that when you go to ask that question and ask them out on a date, your mind is already positive no matter what they say.
Yeah.
Even in rejection, you're like, this is something that I'm just practicing.
Yes.
This is something that I'm just going to get better at, and eventually I'll have success with this. You can't go about saying, I hope.
So number 4 is like, be confident and intentional when you ask, in the ask.
Be confident and intentional in the ask, and know that you're creating new positive mental patterns in your brain that will lead to more positive outcomes.
Because even a no, like worst case scenario, right? You get a no. You just did that.
Yeah.
You just asked somebody
you can
out.
Celebrate. Yeah. Someone, I think it was in that High Five Habit book, people that celebrate themselves do celebratory things.
Yeah.
So people that are able to see the wins in, I asked a girl out.
Yeah.
And that's
a win.
That's a win. You will win more times at that.
And you'll get better at it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to my friend Aaron. That kid could talk to any woman imaginable. He was nothing of male prowess.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't jacked. He wasn't, you know, the best looking guy in the world.
But he was genuine.
But he was genuine. Yeah, he was authentic and he
Mhm.
was ultra confident because he just believed that he could
Mhm.
talk to any woman and he believed that he
And he
could.
could.
Yeah, he believed that about himself and he was able to do it.
Mhm.
And he married a beautiful woman,
Mhm.
which is way beyond his leagues. But I love you, Aaron. And then what other things? I think we just said making sure once you get that date
Mhm.
to state your intentions for the rest of that relationship, just so you can kind of sift out, is this person that wants to continue with
Yeah.
me or not? And again, whatever their intention, you went on that date.
Mhm.
So that's a win.
Yep.
You know, you were honest with yourself. You were true to yourself and your desires,
Right.
which you should be in every area of your life.
And that's going to help
yourself.
that relationship be the healthy, strong relationship you want it to be.
Right.
So you have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For relational health, everybody has to be true to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work out, you'll find the right person later.
Yeah. I think that's basically it. I think those are the things that will help you be more successful and get to positions and get to a place where you can make that ask a girl on a date.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoyed that podcast, everybody. We're continuing in this series of dating advice. I hope it's been helpful to you so far. We have some more topics and episodes lined up to continue in this. You tell us when we're done with this topic. In the comments, you say, please move on to something else.
And tell us your questions too.
Right. And if we're missing something, if we're missing a question that is burning on your mind and heart, tell us in the comments. Thank you all for listening, for watching, for subscribing, liking, rating, doing all the things. We love you all. Goodbye.